Today, I'm going to show you how to use OpenAI's TTS in your own projects using the API. So I'm going to show you how to use it bare bones, and then I'm going to show how you can make a quote-unquote chatbot with it. So let's jump into it. And there are some prerequisites. So you're going to need an OpenAI account. You're going to need Python on your computer, and then some type of IDE. I use VS Code. For Python, I recommend you do 3.10, but 3.11 for this tutorial should be fine. So the page that you're going to be brought to if you don't have an OpenAI account is this platform.openai.com, where you can sign up or log in. I'm going to continue with my Google account. And so once you're logged in, you're going to be met with an interface that looks like this, and you're going to want to go over into the area where it says API keys. You will need to set up a credit card on the account so that it can bill your credit card, because the API credits are not free, but they might have some trial credits. I'm not sure on that. And so if you head on over to the settings and billings area, you'll be able to add a new payment method, and currently my pending is $2.08. So it's not that expensive if you're just trying some things out. So the next thing is going to be API keys. So you're going to head over to this API key tab, grab a new secret key, and then name it, let's say test. And then you're going to have this secret keys. We're going to leave it like that for now. And we're going to now go to the documentation. So I highly recommend you go take a look at this documentations page. I'm going to link it down below in the description, because it has everything you need to get started. And that's what we're going to be using as reference in today's video. So if you're a documentation type of person, this is where you can go and look at how OpenAI suggests that you get started with their API calling. Now with that, we're going to do a new project folder that we can drag into VS Code. So go into some type of file explorer, and then we're going to do new folder, and let's just name this TTS or whatever you want to do, and then we'll drag this on over into VS Code, and that'll get you an environment that you can start adding files into. So we're going to go to file, add new text file, and save this. So Control S is what I do here. I'm just going to call it main.py. All right, cool. The next thing I want to do is set up a virtual environment so that all of my packages are isolated in their own environment and it doesn't run into any global issues. So with that, I'm going to go to terminal, new terminal, and then in here, what I'm going to do is type python -m venv. So I'm going to create a virtual environment called venv. And if this is your first time activating a virtual environment on your PC or your Windows PC, you need to go into Windows, PowerShell, run as administrator, and that's going to bring you to a terminal here where you're going to type in capital S set, capital E execution, capital P policy, and then you're going to do capital R remote, capital S signed. And with this, you're going to do Y or A and then enter. So I already did this. I'm going to exit out of there. So now we can activate our virtual environment. So type in venv tab scripts tab and then activate. So enter that in and you'll get a nice little green venv here. As well, since we're in VS Code, what you want to do is click this bottom right corner to change the Python environment that it's running in. And we're going to use this venv one up here, minus 3.9.13. Cool. So with that, we can now install packages. You want to make sure this is highlighted so we can install some packages. So the first one we're going to do is pip install OpenAI. So this is so that we can call the OpenAI API from Python. Type in CLS to clear that. And with that, now we can start doing a little bit of the code. So I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. We're going to go and use the code from the API documentation. So we'll go ahead and copy this from OpenAI, go back into our VS Code window, and then go ahead and paste this into here. So this is all that you'll need to create a quick output file from the TTS service. And then the other thing we need to do is now go into your API key. So go ahead, copy this API key, and then we're gonna do first inside of this variable right here, inside of the OpenAI object, we're gonna do API key and then do a quote and then paste in that API key. Now that's how you can get it if you want your API key to be inside of the code, but in general, I don't really like to do this. So what I'm going to show you instead is how to get this into a YAML file. So for that, we're going to need to install PyYAML. So pip install PyYAML, get that package installed. And so here we go, it's all installed. And now what we're going to do instead is go over to file, create a new text file, and then inside here, let's go ahead and save it. And we're going to call this keys.yaml. Save that. And then we're gonna have a variable called API underscore key. We'll do a colon and then paste it in there with a space. So with that, we can now go into our main.py. Let's go ahead and remove this. We'll do with open. We're going to name that file, so keys.yaml as read. And then we're going to do as file. Oh, one more thing we need to do is import YAML, and then we'll go ahead and do an enter. And then inside of here, let's do keys equals YAML dot safe load. And then we're going to do parentheses file. So that's going to load in the contents of our YAML file. So we can now call that variable that we're going to need for the API key. So with that, now what we can do is access it via a list. So we'll do keys, and then inside of here, we can use the name of our variable. So we'll just copy that, do some quotes, and then paste that into here. So now we have our API key stored in a YAML file so that it's not exposed on our code. So this is how I like to load in my API key. And with this, everything is good to go. As long as you have your OpenAI account set up correctly, we should be all ready to run. So there are a couple of things that you can set up with OpenAI's TTS. So there is another model that you can call, which is -HD. And then there are 6 different voices that you can do. If you go over to hover on the .create in VS Code, it'll show you the different parameters that you can pass. In this case, these are the 6 voices, and here are the TTS models. In this case, we're going to swap over to Nova, as that's the one that I've found is the best. And then we're going to just go back to the 1. I think the 1 sounds just fine, and you don't need the additional quality for .hd, as it's also more expensive too. So we're just going to use their example. Actually, let's just do the typical YouTuber text one. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. All right, so YouTubers do that. And we're going to go ahead and now F5. So F5 in VS Code will run. If in the case that you want to do it manually, you go to run and then do start debugging. So with that, you click the Python file, and it's going to go ahead and now generate a speech.mp3 file we can take a listen to. So go over to your Explorer right here, go into that speech file, and then let's take a listen.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you found this useful.
Okay, so that was actually pretty poor in my opinion, compared to how what I had heard the other week. So let's go ahead and try that one more time. Do F5 to run that, and then it's going to overwrite this speech MP3. So here we go one more time.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you found this useful.
There you go. That one has a little bit of intonation in there, a little bit of variation, and that one sounds much better. All right, so now what happens if you want to read out that audio file instead of just saving it? Well, we need to now install a couple of new packages. So let's do pip install sound device, and then we'll do sound file. All right, and with those, we can now, let's do import sound device as we usually do SD, and then import sound file as SF. So we need those imports in here, and then if we scroll to the bottom, do a couple of new lines so that we can get the new code in here. So for this, we need to read the file, and then we need to play the file. So for sound device, we first load in with a with SF or sound file. So we'll need to do audio data, and then sample rate equals SF dot read. And then we're going to read in the speech file path, as that's the speech.mp3 file here. So we'll do speech file path. And then now that we have it read in, we can now do play. So we'll do sound device, play, and then parentheses. And then in here, we're going to use that audio data and then sample rate. So here's audio data and then sample rate. So as you can see, these are the first 2 parameters. So our data and then our sample rate. And then we're going to wait for this to finish. So SD wait parentheses. Now with those finished, we can go to run, start debugging, and it's going to read out this line for us. So I forgot we also need NumPy. So CLS to clear this, we'll do pip install NumPy so that we can now import this. So with that installed, let's go back up here and then import numpy as np, and then we should be all ready to run this again. So let's go ahead, go to run, start debugging.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you found this useful.
And there you go. There it is now reading out to us. So that's how you can get an audio file, and then that's how you can also get the audio file read out. And for the reading out part, there are a bunch of different Python libraries you can use, but I tend to use SF and SD. Now with that, let's go ahead and create a simple chatbot that you can talk to that will output voice back to you. So let's go ahead and create a new text file, save it. I'm going to call this chatbot.py, save, and then in here we're going to do our imports. So we need to import OpenAI, and then from the other one, I'm actually just going to copy the same OpenAI API instantiation here. So copy paste that in here. Oh, and then it's actually going to be from OpenAI import the OpenAI class, and then we'll need to do import YAML. And then what we're going to utilize in this case are use of functions. So we need to define two functions, one to read the audio and then one to generate the chat. And to generate the chat, we're going to use the GPT API from OpenAI. So everything's going to be OpenAI here. So first, let's go ahead and create a function called generate audio, and then do two parentheses, do a colon, and then type in pass just for now. And then we need to create another function called generate text, and then we'll do pass. So those are the two functions that we're going to call. And then below we need to do if double under name double underscore main, and then we can write our logic down here. So all right, and so some quick logic on if we think through what we need to do, we need to take in a user's message, pass that to ChatGPT to generate a response, and then we need to read out that response. So that is what we have to do. And in this case, we're going to build each one of these functions so that we can do that. So in here first, let's go ahead and start with the generate text. For us, we can just use what OpenAI gives us for how to do a chat completion. So this is in their documentation in the text generation capabilities area. So we can just copy this and then paste that into the generate text function that we've got. And then if we scroll down a little bit more, we can copy out this here so that we know what we're grabbing from the API response. And that's going to be this message right here. Now, there are a couple of modifications that we are going to do. So we're going to take out this list of dictionaries that they give us, and we're going to instantiate our own. So in this case, let's head on over to I'm going to call these our global variables up here. We're going to make a new list called messages. And then inside of here, we actually need a specific format for calling to the OpenAI API. And so we need to do these curly brackets, and then we need to do quote role. In this case, we're going to do our system message first, and then we need to do content colon, and then here do F, and then another curly brackets, and then we'll call personality. So with that, go back up one more level, and we need to create a new variable called personality. Let's set it equal to a string. And in here, what we're actually doing is creating a system personality for the way that the GPT is going to respond. Think of it as kind of like the first message to set a mood for a ChatGPT chat, but this will persist through the entire, I guess, conversation with it. So in this case, we could just do, let's just say, you are role playing as a tsundere. Cool. We'll save that. And then now that we've got this list of dictionaries up here, we can then go into our messages, and then we can then go into the parameter messages and then put in our new list of dictionaries. And so this is important because every time that we write a response, it has to pass in that list again so that ChatGPT can see all of the messages that we've done to generate an appropriate response. Now with that, we can modify this right here. Well, actually, let's keep that, and then let's copy the contents in here, and then we'll call this bot response, and then set it equal to the message contents here. So that is the bare bones of what we need for our generate text function. And then we need to return our bot response so that it can be read out. So we're gonna now test out this generate function so that we can see if it's working correctly. So first, let's head on now over to this. Actually, we're going to define a function called main, and then we're gonna do everything inside of main. So let's define a main function. Inside here is where we're gonna take the user input and give that over to GPT 3.5. So let's create a new variable called user input. Let's do it equals input, and then we'll say enter text, colon, and space. Now what we need to do is append that to the messages dictionary or list that we created a little bit earlier. So we're going to do messages.append, messages plural .append, and then parentheses, curly brackets, role, user, because this is the user in this case, comma, content, and then we'll do an F string. So F quotes, curly brackets, user input. So here is the user input, and just a quick visualization of what we're doing. This is how it's going to look. So the first message that we did was the system, then here's the user, and then we're going to then append the assistant and then the user. So we still need to add that append into the text generation part. We'll do that after we test out our function. And then now with that, we can call our generate text function. So two parentheses here. And if you're wondering why we're not passing anything into this function, it's because we have instantiated this messages list globally so that it's accessible from all of the other functions. Cool. So now we'll run, so start debugging, and we're gonna enter in, hey, how is your day? And so it's going to generate a response here, which is this print line. So this is the response that ChatGPT generates out, or GPT 3.5. And so it does in fact work. Now, what we need to make sure is that each time it generates a response, it also appends that response to the list of messages that we're sending over. So what we now do after bot response is messages append. We'll just use that same line. And in this case, we'll do assistant. And then in here, we need to replace user input with bot response. And so that'll now append that list of dictionaries each time. I just call list of messages so that it can update how the conversation is going. So now we need to pass in the bot response to our audio function that we're gonna call. And we already have that logic. So we're just going to go back to that first example that we did and copy and paste all of that line into that function. So we can just go ahead and now copy this and bring this into our generate audio function. Make sure everything is indented correctly. And then we need to do a couple of more imports. So let's do import from actually I think it's from pathlib import path. So we've got path, and then we need our sound file and sound device. So import sound device as SD, and then import sound file as SF. And I usually like to reorganize mine so that everything is in alphabetical order and the froms and imports are together. So it would look something like this. And now with our audio function mostly created, we need to do one more modification, and that is the input. So this is where we're going to create a new parameter so that we can pass in that bot response. And to do that, we can say something like text, and then we'll use that text parameter down here. Cool. And then the last modification we need to do is pass that response. So we'll take that bot response, we'll call this bot response, and then we'll call in generate audio, parentheses, and then we'll pass in that bot response. And with that, our chatbot is all complete and ready to go. So this is the personality trait that it's using, and we can now have a conversation with it. So let's go ahead and run. We'll go along the lines of, hey, how are you doing? It's gonna generate a response, and then it's,
I'm fine, I guess. Don't think I care about how you're doing or anything. It's not like I'm interested or anything like that.
So there you go, there's the read out response. And as you can see, it just quit out after one reply. So we just need to throw this into an infinite while loop, and we should be good to have a continuing conversation with it. So with this, it'll just keep running until you stop the code. And there are a bunch of other things you can do to add complexity to this. You can add a new function to accept a user's voice so they can take in my microphone stream. You can add speech to text so that you can actually talk to it. And there are just an infinite amount of things that you could modify with this. And then ultimately, you could always just ask ChatGPT, how would I create a chatbot using the OpenAI API? You could always just ask ChatGPT to just generate all of it for you, and it would be good to go because this is up to date as of April 2023. Okay, but it looks like 3.5 is actually down for OpenAI, which maybe that's why it was slow. But just to show you with GPT-4, as GPT-4 seems to be working, it'll give you a response and then all of the code that you need to get one written. And so here you go, here you have the code. This is actually, I believe, outdated for generating an OpenAI response. So you would still probably have to reference the documentation to make sure it's good to go. But that's how you can use the text-to-speech API. I know it also became kind of a tutorial on how to use the chat completions API as well, but they all kind of go hand in hand together, and it's just a small couple bits of modification to switch what models you're using. And so yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. If you found anything useful, please consider liking and subscribing, becoming a member to help support the channel, and that's going to be it for today. See you later.